When we hit 50 billion people on this planet, will we have enough food? Will we have enough land? Will there even be enough oxygen to breathe? And what happens to every animal still alive when we get there? These are not questions for a distant science fiction future. Scientists are already running the numbers, and what they found is not a warning about tomorrow. It is a warning about what is already happening today. So let's start with when. Right now, 8 billion people share this planet. Every single year, roughly 80 million more are added. At that rate, the United Nations projects Earth population will reach somewhere between 10 and 11 billion by the year 2100 and then begin to slow. Growth rates are already falling. The more educated and economically developed a country becomes, the fewer children people tend to have. At current trajectory, most models agree we will never naturally reach 50 billion. But what if we did? What if medicine kept advancing and death rates collapsed? What if populations expanded faster than anyone predicted? What if we crossed 15 billion, then 20, then kept climbing? Under a scenario where growth never slowed, demographer Joel Cohen, who spent years collecting every scientific estimate ever made about Earth's maximum population, calculated that reaching 50 billion could theoretically happen within 200 to 300 years under the most aggressive growth projections. And that is where things start to fall apart. Let's talk about land. The total surface of Earth is about 510 million square kilometers. But most of that is ocean. Strip away the water and you have roughly 150 million square kilometers of land. Strip away the ice caps, the deserts, the mountain ranges, and everything too harsh to build on, and you are left with about 50 to 70 million square kilometers of truly habitable land. That is the space 50 billion people would need to share. Do the math and each person gets roughly 1,400 square meters. That sounds like enough until you remember that land does not only need to house people. It needs to grow food, filter water, store carbon, and support every living system that keeps humans alive. When you carve out space for farms, roads, factories, and forests, the space left for actual human housing shrinks fast. Cities would not just grow, they would swallow everything around them. Now let's talk about food. Today, 40% of all habitable land on Earth is already used for agriculture, and we still cannot feed everyone alive right now. Around 700 million people go to bed hungry every night on a planet of 8 billion. Scale the population to 50 billion, and the demand for food increases 6 times. The land cannot scale 6 times. There is no 6 times left. Environmental scientist David Pimentel spent decades studying the relationship between population and natural resources, and his conclusion was blunt. Freshwater is the real wall. Agriculture already consumes 70% of all freshwater used by humans today. Rivers are running dry. The aquifers that irrigate the world's most productive farmland are being emptied faster than rain can refill them. The Ogallala Aquifer beneath the American plains, one of the largest underground water reserves on Earth, is being drained so fast that parts of it will be gone within 50 years at current usage. With 8 billion people, imagine 50 billion pulling from that same well. To feed that many people, humanity would need to transform every remaining wild space into farmland, perfect lab-grown food at a global scale, or do both at the same time under enormous pressure. And even then, the water mathematics may not work with any technology we currently have. But what about the air? Can Earth produce enough oxygen for 50 billion lungs? This one surprises people. The atmosphere contains so much oxygen that human breathing alone, even at 50 billion people, would not meaningfully reduce global oxygen levels. That is not the danger. The danger is what 50 billion people would do to the systems that produce oxygen in the first place. Roughly half of all the oxygen on Earth is produced by phytoplankton drifting in the ocean. The other half comes from forests, grasslands, and plant life on land. To feed 50 billion people, the pressure to clear forests for farmland would be relentless. Every tree cut down is one less oxygen producer. Every ocean polluted with agricultural runoff kills the phytoplankton beneath the surface. The oxygen itself would not run out, but the living systems keeping it replenished would be under assault from every direction at once. And then there are the animals. This is the part most people never talk about, and it may be the most important. Right now, with 8 billion people, we are already living through what biologists call the sixth mass extinction. Biologist E.O. Wilson, who dedicated his life to studying biodiversity, warned that species are disappearing at a rate 1,000 times higher than the natural background rate. Habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, and overhunting are collapsing animal populations on every continent and in every ocean. The insects that pollinate the crops we eat are declining. The fish that billions of people depend on for protein are being pulled from the ocean faster than they can reproduce. The predators that hold entire ecosystems in balance are being pushed to the edges of existence. At 50 billion people, this does not slow down, it accelerates. The remaining wild spaces that shelter the animals and plants holding ecosystems together would be converted into farmland, housing, and roads. Extinction would no longer happen species by species. It would happen system by system, and without biodiversity, the food system begins to collapse. Without pollinators, crops fail. Without healthy oceans, protein disappears. Without forests, rainfall patterns shift and fertile land turns to dust. A world of 50 billion people and a world of thriving animal life cannot coexist on this planet under any system humans have yet built. This is what scientists mean when they talk about planetary limits. Not that the Earth runs out of space for human bodies, it does not. Fit all 50 billion into the state of Texas, and each person would still have the floor space of a small apartment. The room exists, the physics allow it, but the systems that keep those bodies breathing, eating, and drinking do not scale. The soil, the water, the air, the animals, the forests, every thread holding the living world together is already being pulled tight at 8 billion people. At 50 billion, those threads do not stretch, they snap. We began by asking whether the Earth could handle 50 billion people, whether there would be enough food, enough land, enough oxygen, enough room for the animals we share this planet with. The answer is not hiding in the future. It is written in everything happening right now, with 8 billion people. Today. And the kind of Earth that reaches 50 billion is built entirely from the choices being made by the Earth that still only has 8.